See if I can back this up a bit. Hopefully the sound is still going to be okay. I think that'll work. Let's hope so. All right. I don't know how this will go with all the power problems and everything, and I'm restricted to a light that makes me look like I've been sunburned, but that's not the case. Hello, everyone, as you come in. It is the evening of the 16th of February, 2021. Hello, everyone, as you come in. Uh, Thank you for letting me know it's 5 by 5. And again, I'm really not this red. I had to borrow a light here to use with my phone because it's this part of the house here, and it's not the best, I guess. So hopefully we'll just be able to deal with it. Yeah, well timed. What am I talking about? Hello, everyone, as you come in again. Caramel coffee? No, not tonight. As a matter of fact, you would. Who asked me that? Who asked me, the concerned citizen? I hate to tell you, but I've got Irish whiskey. Hi, Liza Jeans. No, I'm not blushing. I will be. I'm going to tell you a story. I think I've got to decide. If I should. It's a little risque, kind of like my earlier upload today on the Nephilim, as opposed to the soul. But at any rate, yeah, I have some Irish whiskey here, and this is about the best tasting glass I could find, but it'll work. So here we are. It's I might as well tell you the story now. I hope we have all adults in here. I'll tune it out if it gets jiggy. Well, it may get. Let me tell you what happened. So, like I said, I'm taking care. I'm doing some house sitting, uh, and so I went looking for some liquid refreshment tonight during when I decided to do this live stream, and I found I found this Irish whiskey, and I wrote a friend and I said, "Well, it looks like I'm going to be having Bushmills Red Bush tonight," which is what this is, and he texts me back and says, "Well, I've never met her. When do I get to meet her?" But it's an Irish whiskey. Yeah, Bushnell's Red Bush. so, so yeah, I'm having some Red Bush tonight, and I haven't even had but one little itty bitty sip. So anyway, yeah, that's just the way it is. All right, well, got to laugh about something. Well, enjoy your wine. Oh, it's not wine. It's scotch. It's a blended scotch. I don't drink much anything else. Every once in a while, I'll have a little whiskey. Wine's too sweet for me, and beer bloats me. So I'm pretty well stuck on this type of refreshment. And before I came on, I made sure that Monty wasn't on because I do not want to interrupt his live streams either. So I'm a little early. It's coming up on 1900 hours, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. But I figured I'd go ahead and do it. Yes, cheers, everybody. Sarah Keys, yeah, thanks. I love a good bush. Rick, be careful. Rick, be careful. Yeah. Of course, there's Anheuser Busch too, right? Yeah. Well, I don't usually drink this either, but normally I drink just single malts. But then you got to just get what you can get. Kind of. I could tell you another story about that, but I won't. Okay, in the description box below is and I don't know how this will go. Again, I'm using my phone connection, not Wi-Fi. That's had a problem now. How's the weather? It's stormy, very cold, and it's pretty much like that across 2/3 of the country right now. I don't know if it's just one of those weather flukes or if it's weather weapons. We see that there are things happening in Greece and other places where there shouldn't be snow either, uh, and they're going to blame it on climate change. All of this with all of the geoengineering and everything else that's going on. We really don't know what's causing all this. Whether it's actually the solar minimum or whether it's somebody using that to help push things along. But regardless, it's all converging on us at the same time. Cold and snowy here in the Northwest. Yeah, I have a daughter that lives up in the Northwest. She's pretty much stuck too. Yeah, cutting off power is a weapon. Yeah, all that. So in the description box below, what made me decide to go ahead and do this live stream tonight is Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice put up uh, a video about the problem with the power grid going down, and I tweeted some of that out earlier, and immediately I got attacked by greenies and other people. Look, I'm not saying it's just the fact that the ice storms have caused a problem with the windmills or covered up the solar panels or whatever. I understand that there are federal regulations that these different states have submitted themselves to. Very obviously, it was stupidity, but they did it. So I tweeted out here a few minutes ago that, you know, here we are. The Chinese or whoever didn't need to use an EMP against us. Whatever enemy is out there, the powers that be, whatever. By the way, some of the things I might say, I'm going to have to be careful, right? Or they'll throw me off of here. I probably already violated some things. 71 degrees, where? Where are you? Victoria Cunningham, where are you at 71 degrees? I want to be there. Yeah. Anyway, so the powers that be don't need an EMP. All they need to do is control us using green requirements and, of course, EPA requirements, and they can pretty much shut everything down. We saw that anyway under Obama. He was shutting coal-fired plants down all across the country, and then when Trump came in, one of the few good things he did is start those back up. But now Biden has turned it back off again, and on top of that, has said that he's not going to do anything to secure the power grid for 90 days because he's giving the Chinese a chance to get their input. Uh-huh. Yeah, we've got Chinese infiltration all through the government, but you know what? They're never going to go after them. Only a few little small people here and there because they're all compromised, and I think we all know that, right? Okay, so let me go over a couple of notes that I wrote down. Ladies and gentlemen, they're at war with us. They're at war with us. They have been for some time. It started quite a long time ago, probably several decades ago, but now all of this is converging into double and triple envelopments on the American people. And I hope that you've been listening over the last few years and getting ready, getting prepared to try to weather some of these storms, no pun intended, that are coming and that are already here and have been here for a long time now. Again, I can't get specific on some of these things because, as Monty talks about, Uncle algorithms and all those things do have a tendency to kick in and can cause some problems. I thought about just doing a recording and putting it up on LBRY Odyssey, but I haven't really done a really extensive live stream for a while, so I thought I'd give it a chance, take the risk. So Biden, like I just said, he's suspend the securing of the power grid for 90 days. He did that right off the bat, along with like 40 other of these executive orders that basically attack the country. And there's nobody there to stop him. The only people that can stop him, because there's obviously no one in the federal government, including the Congress, Senate, or the House of Representatives, that are going to do it. It's going to have to be the states. And a few have started to stand up: Florida, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. Where are you, Abbott? Where's Texas? Utah, as you know, they're bowing and kissing the feet of the feds, which they've done now for over 100 years. That's been their mantra for a long time: is do whatever the federal government tells you to do. They'll pretend otherwise, but otherwise. How is it, Roy? Let me try it again. Okay, I'll let you know. It's a blend, so it doesn't have that rich depth that the single malts do, but it's there. Dennis Love, yeah, it won't be $2,500 a kilowatt hour. They were talking about megawatt hours for the big. In other words, selling the electricity to the large power plants for distribution. That would be thousands of dollars per megawatt hour. That's not going to be at the kilowatt hour, which is how they bill you in your home. Okay, so that's a little different. it's still going to go up. And I talked to a power engineer, a guy who actually works in a power station. He's a manager there, and he kind of explained the situation to me. He did blame it on the freezing temperatures covering up the solar panels, actually coating the windmills with ice so that they couldn't turn. Also, the whole situation with the government, the federal government in particular, having these different other types of power plants shut down or not able to work. He blamed it all on that, but he basically said that this increase in the power of the megawatts, the thousands of dollars in megawatts, those megawatt charges are to the distribution facilities, not to the individual consumer. Those are in kilowatts. So, but it's still going to go up. He's anticipating 20 to 30 cents a kilowatt hour, where it may have been only 12 cents before. See, that kind of thing. But we'll see. They also have these boards for cushioning, so in case something like this happens, they can spread the cost over a period of time. So at any rate, I just thought I'd let you know. Okay, that's how that is. Okay, getting back to what I was saying. So uh, conveniently, this whole thing with the CVD hits us. The economy shuts down. They're attacking the Second Amendment. They've got the power grid failures. They've got this huge storm coming through. Uh, Food shortages because of the shutdowns, and of course now for the power grid problem. This is a multiple pronged attack. Now, some people will say, well, they're not controlling the weather. They're not doing that. They don't have to, although I believe they are. They don't have to. All they have to do is wait for the perfect time to have everything fall into place. In other words, you set up your logistics ahead of your attack. So all then you do is wait for the opportune time. At this point, possibly this polar vortex. Hey, Roosevelt, good to see you. Thanks for all your help and continuing giving me information. I really appreciate it. So uh, it's all timed, and that's why I called this. It's a well timed attack, is what it is. So let's go back through this. We've heard about the dark winter for several years, actually, about the the tests that they did, the exercises, of course, Event 201, all of these different things that have come out since the Patriot Act. Getting ready for this, we've heard about this dark winter, and Biden called it a dark winter several times, and lo and behold, look what's going on. People actually freezing in their homes. They're even having to shut down uh, shelter facilities where they're having people come in. Hi, Marty, how you doing? Where they're having everybody, who can't keep warm in their homes, come to these warming facilities, but they're even having to shut them down. Um, oh, Bonnie, come on, or not Bonnie? Who was that? I hate to get sidetracked, but a sniff. Oh yeah, I've explained the Kabbalah thing. Okay, I'm not going to get off on that too much tonight, but you don't understand the history. There's a Talmudic Kabbalah that isn't good. I agree. But they started practicing a form of that right after the Hekkelot, right as they were having the war with Rome. And obviously, you don't know about that, okay? So that's all I'm going to say about it. You don't know what you're talking about. You're listening to a preacher or a sermon from some pastor that doesn't know the history. I do, okay? I understand that there's a good way to meditate and a bad, okay? So that's all I'm going to say to sniff there. I'm not going to talk anymore about that. Yeah, no rolling blackouts. They were saying before the storm. Yeah, in Texas. Of course, they've had them in California. Let me read you what Nancy Morgan Hart said in one of her tweets today. Okay, she said this. She said, "Wildfires in California. Uh, Floods destroy Midwest grain. Farmers are basically going broke. Trump shuts down the economy. Millions in poverty. The U.S. power grid goes into failure. Millions freeze. This is Schwab's Great Reset." You see how everything's coming together so that you're going to become more dependent, that you're begging the government to fix this. Your state governors and your state legislatures have betrayed you for porridge. As I often say, we've traded uh, LXDR, and that's not the Cabal. We're talking about Kabbalah, which actually means in Hebrew to receive. Okay, so you don't know how to use your Hebrew lexicon. Sorry, you don't know how to use it. So at any rate, they're pushing us toward this thing, and your state governors and your state legislatures and all of those state enforcement agencies that are out there to supposedly protect you have not done so. Actually, what they've done is they've betrayed you big time. Right, right. What is that? Oh three red, whatever. Yeah, that's exactly right. They've all betrayed you because they've been promised money, status, whatever. Okay, and I still believe that most of these nations. I mean, what's Trump doing going over to talk to Putin now? And I haven't verified that, but yeah, why would he be going to talk to Putin? Okay, so there's something bigger going on, and it's as I've said. I believe that Trump is actually behind a lot of this. You wouldn't think so because he's played that marred, suffering servant of Isaiah 52, but things are starting to kind of fall into place now. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Regardless, something has brought these leaders of the world together, and it's not just finances that they can't keep supporting their social nets, especially for the older population. There's something else going on, and it's a culling. It's a reduction in the population, a forced one, and it's going to get worse. I would talk about some specifics here. I've kind of alluded to them on LBRY and Odyssey and over the year. Um, but just know that they're coming after you. Okay, that's just the way it is. They're coming after you with every possibility they can. And Biden, I don't know how successful he'll be. I mean, he has both the Senate and the House with these gun control bills, so it's possible he could go through. But there are some Democrats that don't want to really give that up. I don't know how this is going to go down, but regardless, we're going to have states stand up and nullify these federal laws, like North Dakota did, like apparently Iowa just did, and there have been some other. Missouri, I guess, was one. That's going to have to go big time. Governor of Utah, I don't expect him to do anything. He's a coward as far as I can tell. The governor of Wyoming might stand up. I don't know yet. We're going to have to wait and see. Uh, okay, and then we have the military occupation of D.C. All right, what's that all about? Why? I mean, that's a banana republic type of thing. They're protecting them from the people, even if it's the 70 million Trump supporters. Well, that means that government that's in D.C. is illegitimate. If it's worried about half its population or half its voter population being against it, then it's an illegitimate government. If it thinks it has to use military force to protect itself, this bodes very badly for us, very badly. And again, I was calling Trump out on these things. He actually is the one that put the military in D.C. first, not Biden. Biden just kept it up and is keeping it going. Now he's saying maybe through the rest of the year. But regardless, Trump should have been called out on these things, and those who didn't because they were afraid of getting in trouble with the UCMJ or some other oath that they took about having to protect the not to criticize the president, but now do it to Biden. They're either cowards or they're complicit in the takedown of this country. That's the way I look at it. Okay, because it shouldn't matter whether it's a Republican doing unconstitutional stuff or a Democrat. You don't support them in that. And it might be, oh, well, we're using a strategy. You know, we've got to go along with this guy so that we can get this. You stroke evil, all right, and what ends up happening is you reap evil. You can't do that. So there we are. Uh, and then, of course, under the OWS, you know what that is? Why is that going on when the survival rate is over 99%? What is it that people are getting ready for? They're lining up for these things. Yeah, balkanization. Well, they want to take the country apart, but they're going to get as good a control on us, on all of us, as they can. So what was that? No, I hope so. I hope the angels break these lockdowns and things. I hope they do. You know, I look at these prophecies quite a bit, but you got to understand the people that are operating, and I think you do, the people that are operating this whole takedown of the common people. Uh, that's their playbook as well. Okay, that's their playbook. And communist internment camps, communist re-education camps are here. They're already in Britain, they're already in some other countries, and they're certainly getting them ready here in the United States. Uh, they're gonna. I don't know, like I said, how successful Biden will be on this new tyrannical Second Amendment attack. But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of governors who, like we've seen on this whole CV ID thing, will go along with it, and there might be some that won't. But then you're going to have to hope that your states will protect you against the feds when they start to, and they won't come into the state, you know, in mass. That's not how they'll do. They'll deny you, your tax return. They'll deny you. Uh, well, one of the things he's doing is he wants to increase taxes. You know about that, taxing the weapons and having to register and go get a psychological exam. All this nonsense. Basically, it's to break you, so they don't have to come forcefully. But don't think they won't if that's the only thing they have left to get you to comply. They will do that. They will, but they'll use all these other soft attacks first. You know what? I just realized I didn't plug this in, so it's losing power really, really fast. Let me plug this in real quick here. I thought I had done it, and I just realized I had not. Okay, there we are. Let's see if it's going. Okay, good. As we're going to be at this for Q is a PSYOP control opposition. Yeah, I think that's pretty well been proven now. I'm surprised at the people that are still hanging around with that, but that's their business. I called it out back in 2018, and so I've been done with it for a long time. But anyway, so they're going to attack you, keep you from being able to go buy groceries. Even with your weapons, they could do that. If this ID thing, let's say that you, I hope you don't. I hope you don't go get that little thing that they stick in your arm. I hope you don't get that. But if you do, that'll just be another way for them to identify you. And if you go to a store and you haven't turned in your AR-15 that they know you have, they could deny you food. You see how that's going to work? And in the end, if all else doesn't work, they will have these goons, these jackbooted thugs, come to your house or grab you off the road or whatever else they'll do. Okay, yeah, the ammo shortage is proof. Yeah, there absolutely is. Um, yeah, I know. Well, now notice how everything is. Oh, wait till the next election. Wait till then. We'll get it the next time. That never works. The states have to take control. That's really the only way. I mean, locally, as David Knight talks about, your local communities, along with your local sheriffs, taking steps to become as independent as you can. That's all well and good, and I certainly support that. I've been talking about it a long time, but you really need a major governmental entity to protect you, because when this thing gets really hot, they won't have any. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to bring in UN troops. They certainly could, but our troops, look what they're doing in D.C. Look. How many of those troops have refused to do that and saying that it goes against their oath? They get court-martialed, at a minimum an AR-15, but probably a court-martial. But if enough of them do it, like they're supposedly refusing the stick them in the arm thing, uh, that would create quite a stir. But that's not going to happen. Most of the people in the military are millennials. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. They've learned to bow down to this Leviathan in D.C. Their idea of taking an oath to a constitution that they've never read is that they obey the orders of their superiors, whether they're lawful or not. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to save you. And with the general officers that are in control of the military now, and of course the bureaucrats in the Department of Defense and the intelligence community, CIA, they're all in on this. Very few are standing against it. Look at how many FBI agents bowed down to the BLM and the Antifa. Look at Ray just now. He's refusing to give over to the Congress some information that they're asking for on the election. None of these people will do the right thing. They're coming after you. They're coming after the principles of liberty, the perfect law of liberty. They are on opposition to the principle of the perfect law of liberty, which is the gospel and shorthand, and they hate you for it. And that's just a fact. Hop out of the pot, Mr. Frog. Yeah, if you can. Well, Jesus is the only way, and the principles that he espouses. And I talk about that all the time, right? Um, Taking the name of Jesus on you means that you do all you can to obtain his attributes and act as if he would act. Become that change in the world that you want to see. So I've talked about that quite a bit. I don't think he expects you to wait to try to do something to, help yourself. Have four swigs for me, Royston. Four swigs. Yeah, I don't swig whiskey. I sip on it. It doesn't matter what kind. When, when I first tried whiskey back, some time ago, I think I've told you the story where I was invited to a party. In the past, I've had relatives that would drink and friends, and just the smell of whiskey would make me want to gag. But when I went to this tasting party and they showed me how to drink it, and you swirl a little bit, get some oxygen in there, get it, yeah, then you just sip on it, and that works out real well for me. Okay. Oh, what was that? There was something there. Is Felicia Lockhart here? I thought I just saw her. Somebody talking to her. Anyway, if you're here, oh, there you are. Yeah, you are here. There you are. Hi, Felicia. Yeah, he is the only way. Yeah, and the principles that he taught. Remember, and that's what it talks about. It says, uh, when we see him, we will see him as he is, and we will be like him. In other words, we become very similar to him. That's what we're actually working towards, right? So yeah, he is the only way. Jesus said, "Carry a sword." He sure did. If there were guns, he would say to carry a gun. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Does my family agree with me, Jay? That's a really good question. No, not 100%. As a matter of fact, I've gone through some very difficult times lately trying to explain some of the more intricate details of what's happening, and it's really really tough, and it's really really tough because I'm standing against the media, I'm standing against the medical field, and a lot of these people that are in my family have relationships with people who are in the medical field who have been brainwashed for a number of reasons, or at least they're prejudiced to their profession. Um, so it's been difficult. I'd say that maybe half of my family, maybe not quite that, maybe a third, understand where I'm coming from. A third just they don't want to be bothered, and the other third are like, you think about crazy stuff. you know, uh, well, if I think about crazy stuff, it's because the government taught me how to do it. They told me what to watch for. They trained me how to spot an attempted overthrow of the government and a takeover of the liberty of the people. They'll have to blame that on the feds. That they did teach me. Okay, so that's a long answer for that, but that's kind of where we are. Let's see, and on this, just so the chat goes by really fast, so I don't always see everybody. I prep with the whiskey too. Oh, it's a good commodity too. Yeah, it's good for cleansing wounds, all kinds of things. Yeah, cleansing the wounds. Sounds like they stepped on what was that? They sounds like they stepped into Lamed. Yeah, yeah. Oh, very good. Yes, Felice. Or no, that's Finest Planet. Yeah, yeah. They stepped it into Lamed now against us. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm not a lush. Ode white. I'm not a lush. I might have a dram or two in a night. 2 3 times a week, maybe something like that. Yeah, there are other things, of course. Yeah, hydrogen peroxide, regular type of alcohol. That's true. But if you want a multiple, you can't. I mean, you can drink hydrogen peroxide, but it's going to mess you up. Uh, you don't want to drink isopropyl alcohol; you'll go blind. So this you can drink and use as an astringent and as a disinfectant and all. So it really has a lot more. And if you don't want to buy the expensive stuff, just get cheap vodka, right? Yeah, you can buy just the cheapest vodka out there. I don't know what it is right now, but you can get like a 1.75 liter of the cheap vodka for I don't know $8 9 $10 something like that. That's really all you need. And then if you have to mix it with something relax a little bit, warm up, you got it, right? So Smirnoff, yeah, Smirnoff is okay. Frankly, I like Grey Goose. If I'm going to have vodka, I like something in the Grey Goose category is what I like. But I don't have much vodka anymore. I might make a martini. I don't care much for gin, so if I make a martini, it's usually out of a good vodka, not a cheap one. A good vodka and an olive or two. That's how I like my make them really really cold. All families are divided, and that was prophesied. And of course, you got to figure it's going to happen. I mean, look at it. Look at how many forces are out there that are drawing us in all these different directions. When you read the Bible, Jesus says that that the father will be divided against son, will be against son, son against father, mother against daughter. There's one that he doesn't mention, and I've said it before. Does anybody know the one point of contention that Jesus doesn't mention when he talks about everybody fighting with each other? Do you know what it is? Let's see if somebody can tell me what it is. I'll just go ahead. Husband against wife. Very good. Felicia, you're so good. With all of the consternations and the battles that Jesus mentions, like I just said, father against son, son against, or mother against daughter, neighbor against neighbor, the one that he never even lets onto is husband and wife being at odds with each other. That should tell you how important that is. Okay? That's more important than all, believe it or not, that's more important than all of the other things that he mentions because that's the foundation. That was the foundation from the very beginning. They are one. They are one flesh. That's right. Oh, I love you people that know these things. I just love you. Parents forsake their children after marriage. You mean when the kids get married off? Well, it says, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and his father, and cling unto his wife," and that's true. But you don't really. I have married kids, and I'm still very much uh, associated with them and all of that. But the real issue is the one, the one flesh, the man and the woman put together. What God has put together, let no man put asunder. My Hebrew is not correct, Sylvia. That's fine. Okay. Well, I got to tell you, there's a difference between modern Hebrew and biblical Hebrew, and then you have to understand the prophetic methods that the prophets use. And I've talked about that. For instance, I've talked about the name Cyrus. Do you know that there are two ways to spell Cyrus in Isaiah? Do you know that? What was her name? Okay. You probably don't know those things. All right. So there are more aspects to Hebrew than you might realize. Okay. I'll just put it at that. And if you want to argue with me, go argue with Strong's and with Gesenius. All right. Husband and wives divided should not be. Yeah. Uh, Jesus told him, about divorce, and he said, "Well, Moses didn't want to have you do divorce. He gave that to you out of the hardness of your hearts." There are some points where divorce is necessary, but Jesus didn't want to talk about it because he understood how important that is. But I mean, if you're getting abused by somebody, God doesn't expect you to stay in that. And when I say abuse, don't make things up. I mean, if they're actually harming you physically or emotionally on purpose, that's what they do. Oh, I'm certain that no, you got to get out of that. You absolutely have to get out of that. Okay, let's see. If you take the value, you probably. Yeah, everybody look what Wilfred Witzke writes. I won't say that, but that's exactly right. This is a binary weapon, maybe a tertiary weapon. Okay, and I talked about that. It was April of last year. Okay, I talked about it April of last year that this was a binary weapon. Okay. Oh, what was that? Okay. Obviously, you guys are talking to each other. Sometimes I think you're asking me a question. One of the things that people in Hebrew will probably wonder about um, the rabbinical interpretations of the letters. For instance, I've talked about it, Beit, for instance, the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, meaning house, but it can also mean womb. Uh, and I talked about it today, meaning the body being the house or the temple for the spirit. So there are a lot of levels of meaning, and you have to understand them. Just because it doesn't match up in a dictionary that you're looking at doesn't mean that you've got it all figured out. Okay, even I'm not an expert. No, no, furthest from it. I'll tell you who's really good at Hebrew, really, really good at it, is Patriot Nurse. I don't think she gets into the prophetic meanings from the Heckalot, but she wouldn't have a hard time moving over to that if she wanted to, and she may already do it. She may already do it. I don't know. Uh, I don't have contact with her. I actually wanted to just for that reason, just because I mean she can speak it fluently. Number one, number two, she has apparently a Messianic Jewish background, and so she understands both sides. And yeah, Steve Ben is very good too. Yeah, he is. I've caught him in a couple of mistakes, but we all make those little mistakes every once in a while. Um, it's in the nature of things. First of all, sometimes, especially if you know biblical and modern Hebrew, sometimes you'll crisscross them. And that's real easy to do. It's kind of I got to tell you this story. It's kind of like in Australia. We have euphemisms in the United States that I don't know if they're used now, but we've used them quite a bit. Um, like you see a little kid in a little baby in a carriage. In the United States, you come up and you say, "Oh, he's a cute little bugger, isn't he?" You say that in Australia, and it's a whole different connotation. Then you're probably going to end up with a bloody nose. So it's things like that. So that happens all the time. The New Testament was written in Aramaic. That's true. How many Aramaic scholars are Christian? Not too many. Um, uh, it was transferred. Actually, it was written in Aramaic, translated into Greek. But the more I'll say sacred texts, like probably the Epistle of James. Um, James would not have written in Aramaic what he wrote. I'm certain he wrote in Hebrew that was then translated in Aramaic and then later on into Greek. It's very possible that the gospel or the epistle of the Hebrews was that way as well, and certainly, the book of Revelation was originally written in the. Hi, Nancy, how you doing? Headlines with the Voices here. Great to see you. Your link is in the description box below to the video from today. Revelation, I am certain because of the nature of it, was when John on Patmos there wrote it down, he would have written it in the sacred language, and it would have been in Hebrew. Then they would have moved it to Aramaic, maybe, but probably directly into the Greek. And you lose some things when you do that. And if you're not familiar with the history of the time and the euphemisms and the things that have happened, you really won't get the full impact of what's going on there. Does Patriot Nurse follow me? I don't think so. I'm too radical. you know, uh, it was like my presentation today. A lot of people objected to what I had to say about uh, the difference between fornication and adultery, for instance. A lot of our understandings are prejudiced, biased because of things that have happened in history over the last 2,000 years and longer than that. So you really like one of my major things is to go back into the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I might as well talk about that here right now, even though it's kind of off topic. There's a disagreement. There was when the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, the Israeli Antiquities Authority and the Catholic-based Bibliothèque Nationale took control of those, and they studied them, and they didn't let anybody see them. They kept them locked up. They went through them with a fine-tooth comb, and there was a reason why they didn't let those out. And I'm probably going to get some people upset here for saying this, But the fact of the matter was, they had to, when they got through those things, they realized they had a problem. And I'm not going to go into all the problems because I really don't want to get people upset. I don't want to cause anybody an injury. I really don't. But the problem was, and I'll approach it from an historical perspective, and I talked about it a little bit in the video today. When the Dead Sea Scrolls talk about the marriage improprieties that were going on at the time, those marriage improprieties that are being discussed never happened under the Maccabees. They never happened under the Maccabees. They happened 100 years later, well, 50 to 100 years later under the Herodians. So they have an anachronism where they're trying to say that the Dead Sea Scrolls were all written prior to the birth of Christ. But that's not true, because the information in there fits what was going on with the Herodians with their marriage practices. I talked about that today, the niece marriage and the fornications, and also the actual arguments that happened that we see evidence of in the New Testament between James and Paul. So those things were written. A number of them, actually, about half of them were written starting around 10 to 4 BC all the way up probably to 70 AD. Okay, so that's why they kept a lid on those things. And thank goodness for my friend who helped me to do the study and to get up to speed on this, Dr. Robert Eisenmann, who is one of the world's foremost authorities on the Dead Sea Scrolls. He's the one that pointed these things out. And of course, the status quo resisted him, because you see, it causes some problems with the traditional viewpoints of Christianity in its beginnings. But I'm not restricted by that. I've gone through and studied all that, and I don't have an intent of hiding the truth. I want to know what the truth is at all costs. Okay, so anyway, I hope I explained that pretty well. Okay, let's see what else we got. Yeah, no, well, Donna, of course not. Jesus' name wasn't spelled Jesus. Actually, it wasn't spelled like that. It was Yehoshua. Yehoshua. A lot of people say Yeshua, but they're getting that name, the Yeshua, actually from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which means just God's salvation. Um, and in some of of course, the Greek texts where it talks about him there, but yeah, there is no J. Yeah, it's a Y sound. It's the Yod. Yes, sound. So it's Yeshua, Yehoshua, Joshua, for instance, which is really what Jesus' name was. Jesus' name was Jesus, the Greek form, um, and it is very similar to Yahweh in some respects. Yeah, because Yahweh is the basis for Yehoshua, which is Joshua's name from the Old Testament, which was what Jesus' name really was Joshua. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So okay, why can't we stop this? You won't be able to. I talked about that from Jeremiah chapter 30, um, and I don't want to say that that's an excuse not to try to stop it. But it pretty well says that there's no medicine we'll be able to take to stop this. That the evil has just gotten too strong a foothold. The only hope we have, other than God Himself, is that we'll have some local or state governments that will stand against the onslaught. But even that's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. Um, the people that are behind this have no compunction, no hesitation to take out any resistance. Just like they did at Waco, just like they did at Ruby Ridge, just like there wasn't really resistance at the Marab building or at the twin in New York on 9/11. But the point is, they have no qualms about it. And I could tell you some stories about that from firsthand experience, but obviously you should know I can't. Okay. World Economic Forum, yeah, Davos. Hi, Jeannie, how you doing? Glad to see you here. Yeah, it's starting to come down pretty hard now. The hail's starting to hit the window. Oh, I don't have my Bible with me right now, Liza Jeans. I'd love to look at it. He, one thing I'm not good at is knowing exactly what chapter and verse say just by, well, what's in Hebrews 6 chapter? I don't know. I have to go read it. I'm not a rote memorization kind of guy. What I do is I I'm trained to make um, connections. Okay, so I'm not sure. I tell you what, I'll go look at it and then maybe I'll tell you a little later. Okay. Yeah, I have no doubt that, well, they're starting to persecute Christians now. They don't want them to have their church. Of course, they did that to the Jews in New York as well. Don't want them to have church. They're fining them. They're arresting them. You saw what happened to the pastor in Idaho. I think they've even been after uh, Pastor Chuck Baldwin, but he's been able to stand against them so far. It's interesting about redemption. Okay, yeah. Hebrews, let me tell you, Liza G, I can tell you this much about Hebrews, and I alluded to it in a video that I did maybe a week or two ago. I don't believe that Hebrews was written by Paul. If it was, he plagiarized the heck out of James. Okay? Uh, and there are reasons for that. If you go read the Gospel of James and you read Hebrews, especially the chapters and verses that I talked about a couple of weeks back, uh, that's James talking. That's not Paul. There's a definite difference between Pauline and Jamesian interpretations, or I should say, instructions. Okay, very, very much different. All right, let's see. Yeah, Nazi Germany is at war with us again. Yeah, that's really true. The Nazis are really behind. I mean, we brought them all over in Operation Paperclip. Oh yeah, for sure. Not to mention our IC. Our IC operates just like the Nazi SS, Gestapo, the Russian KGB. Yeah, they're the same people. They are. Um, and they're not out there to protect you. They're out there to gain power, and that's the end of that. Um, you ever hear about Special Operations Forces finding Nephilim? I heard a story about an a group of soldiers in Afghanistan that apparently ran into one supposedly. I don't know. I don't know about it personally. I've read some of the information on it, but I don't know it firsthand. I have no idea. Yeah, Linda, I like that. Daddy always said the truth will stand when the world is on fire and is about ready for that. That's true. What do we do if we are forced to get the vaccine, Roy? Yep. Shouldn't have said that word. What I will say is this: I can't speak for you, but I know enough about the components of it that I'm not going to do it. I mean, if they're going to make me walk out in the desert and die of starvation or thirst, I'll do that before I do it. That's where I am. I've been shot up with so many of those things, and I talked about it in a video a few days ago. I've probably had scores of those with who knows what in them, and some of them have done me an injury. The latest ones from 2001 did me really, really, really bad, um, and that's all I'll say about it. But this one, the others I took in ignorance and because I was in a situation where I didn't have any choice, right? This time I have a choice. It may not be the best of circumstances for a choice, but that's where I stand. Okay. Okay. Look to the sky. Yeah. Look in your heart. God hides behind a dark spot in your heart. And if you're courageous enough to pull the curtain back on that dark spot in your heart, that's when God will start to really show up. Because what you're doing is you're admitting you have that dark spot, right? So God gives you an infirmity so that you, or lets you have an infirmity, however you want to look at it, uh, so that you'll develop humility and realize that you have an error. And you see these things in other people. You see sins in other people. At least that's, and Felicia knows that I've been talking about this. You see sins in other people so that you can turn that back and examine yourself and see if those things you don't like in others are in you. Well, that's the same thing with this dark spot in your heart. You recognize that it's there, and you open it up, and you say, "Yeah, it's there. I got to have some help getting rid of it." And God steps in at that point, and some very interesting things can happen. Yeah, you all are right on the money with all this thing that's going on with the OWS and all that. Absolutely. Humility and compassion are the lessons of infirmities. Thank you, Roosevelt. Absolutely correct. Like I said, I really love you folks that know your stuff. I really appreciate it. And I know a lot of the things that I say rub people the wrong way. I'm just saying it from the historical record and from uh, what the scriptures say about it. So today, I was talking about fornication. I didn't mean to suggest that it's okay to have sex outside of marriage. I didn't say that. What I said is that it's not as serious as some other types of fornications. Okay, for instance, idolatry. It's one of the 10 Commandments, right? You cannot have a graven image. You'll have no other gods before me. That idolatry is in the 10 Commandments. There's an adultery in the 10 Commandments, but there's nothing on any other type of that sexual fornication. Uh, that's covered. That type of fornication is covered in the "You shall have no other graven images or no other gods before me, and you shall not make a graven image." Those are forms of fornication, as I explained it today. That's not to say that it's good to have premarital sex. I didn't mean that. I just meant that there are laws, and Jesus said that the law is still good in these regards. The two greatest laws are love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and strength, and the second is like unto it. Upon these two rest all the prophets, all the law and the prophets. You really don't need all the others if you just abide those two. So the idea is responsibility. The idea is that you don't traffic in people. You don't take advantage of them. And the law was, if you're out there and you're with a woman, a maid, they called her, an unmarried woman. It was a maid who's fair game, and the passions and all that kind of overrides you, and you do the deed. Okay, what's required? What's required is that you marry that now you're married to that woman, and because you humbled her in those circumstances, you cannot put her away. The man cannot divorce her for forever. He's done. He's got that woman as a wife, as a responsibility. So what happened there? Does that mean that fornication only means that, or means just that, sex before marriage? No, because that is the marriage and the responsibility. Another example is when Abraham sent his servant to go find Isaac, Abraham's son by Sarah, a wife. He sent him to his family, right? And if you remember the story, the servant came up, and the agreement with God was all these signs that he'd be able to tell. And of course, Rebecca, offered to not only feed him and water him, but water the camels as well. You know how much work that is? So that was the sign. So he knew that that was the girl. He brings her back. Was there a marriage ceremony? Can anybody tell me if there was a marriage ceremony? Anybody know if there was a marriage ceremony for Isaac and Rebecca? Again, don't confuse the fornication in James with what I'm talking about. That's a whole different thing. I'll tell you what happened with Isaac, okay? He brought Rebecca into his mother's tent right away. That's what he did. Brought her right into the tent. That's the marriage ceremony. Now, there was a thing that developed later where the mother would want to make sure that the girl is a virgin, and she would check the bedding to see if the hymen was broken, and you could tell that by a little bit of blood on the bedding. But that's a whole nother issue. Okay, see what you get me into. Yeah, I know my history. I know the euphemisms. I know the traditions. I know, and that's why when you look at the Hebrew, you've really got to look at it not just from straightforward. You've got to understand the ins and outs of it. For instance, and I've told people like this before, you've heard the euphemism today. You're talking with somebody and they get tongue tied, and somebody will say, "What's the matter with you? A cat got your tongue?" Somebody hear that 1,000 years from now, and they're going to think, was that literal? Did a cat actually have your tongue? Okay, so the words mean something different to us than they meant at the time, and if you don't understand the history and the euphemisms of the time, then you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it out. Again, the different spellings of Cyrus, Koresh. That was Isaiah didn't make a mistake when he did that. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was making a prophecy, so he changed the spelling of Koresh, of Cyrus. He did it on purpose, and that happens a lot in the Hebrew. Yes, weapons are being weaponized. That's why I'm trying to be careful about what I say on here, because I was supposed to be suspended till the 27th of March, and then all of a sudden, either they made a mistake and put me back up, or somebody said, "Nah, we want to listen to what he has to say, so get him back up there." Maybe they didn't like the fact they had to go to LBRY to hear me, because I wasn't really, I've been trying to use that quite a bit, but I can't use it a lot. Okay, um, Buzz Aldrin's a Mason. All those astronauts probably are. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. Um, I'm not going to get into my personal feelings on what happened on the moon or what they said happened on the moon, but let's just say I have a lot of doubts. I'll just put it that way. Yeah, the First Amendment is slipping away, and now they're coming after the Second. And like I said, we need help with the government, our state governments, to fight that. It's going to be very hard, even with them. But without them, it's going to be one on one. They're going to come after you, like I said, withhold food from you, medical help, housing, job, whatever. They're going to come after you softly, and then that doesn't preclude the fact that they'll use a jackbooted SWAT team. So neighbors are going to have to get together and start defending each other, and that's going to be hard because when people are presented with these life and death type situations, they change. They change the tune that they had real quick. If you've ever been around people that brag a lot about what they're going to do, in a certain situation, and then that situation comes up and they don't do it, that happens probably more often than not. So, what people say and what people do are going to be significantly different. But how do you tell? By their fruits you'll know them. Okay, you watch what they've done before in situations that were critical or that had a lot of pressure in them. That's why the military, one of the ways they train to get soldiers under these, because they can't put them in a real combat situation, right, where there's a lot of stress. So what they'll do is they'll put artificial stress on them. For instance, giving them more tasks in a specific time period than they can possibly accomplish, not give them the tools to accomplish a mission in the way that would be the most efficacious. So they have to come up with new ideas, and it's a stress. And one of the big stresses is lack of sleep. They'll deprive you of sleep to screw down that stress on you so that you learn to operate in stress. So then that person can handle that stress, at least up to this point, which is a good indication of what they'll do in other situations. You see how that works? Okay. Started church. I was Sissy. That's funny you should say that. Somebody wanted me to do that, and I said no, no, no. Too many. First of all, um, almost all churches require some type of financial support, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, the tithing, the principle of tithing, and all that is very true. It's all very good. Um, but I never wanted to put myself in a position where I ever asked for money. Because of my history and because of what I have to say, and also because I don't claim to know the absolute truth. I'd like to, but I can't. Uh, it's like on here. Some people are asking questions, and I'm having to give you my best estimate of the situation. But when it really comes down to it, you don't need a priest. You don't need a pastor. You're supposed to have one priest and one pastor and one master. It's supposed to be between you and him. So I'll talk about the information, but then I want you to find out on your own. For instance, the things I talked about today. Oh, I can back all that up, but you need to go find out for yourself. Okay, let's see. What was that? Put a ransom on the souls of the Egyptian slaves, Moses liberated. Rambo, that's interesting. You should say that. Yeah, there are all kinds of things. I could get into an awful lot there. I talked about it once before. I don't know if you saw my video on it, but it's very similar to this. Think about what Joseph did in Egypt. I mean, what we're seeing now with the way that they're stealing all of our assets, Joseph of Egypt did that to the Egyptians. I talked about it in a video some time ago. People don't realize that's why the Egyptians then, when Joseph died, the Egyptians wanted to take their stuff back, so then they made the Israelites the slaves. But it was the Israelites who made the Egyptians the slaves first. Joseph of Egypt did it and gave it all to Pharaoh, who the Pharaoh was later Joseph. Joseph was the viceroy, the vice Pharaoh, and then he became Pharaoh. Well, Liza Jean, that's interesting you talk about that. Again, I don't want to do anybody an injury. I really don't. My association with God is one-on-one. Okay? If I need correction, he gives it to me. Okay? I've had it in dramatic ways. As a matter of fact, there have been more of that than blessings. Probably because I'm a bad boy. So, all right. Okay. Well, how long have we been going? Oh, over an hour. I'll only go for a few more minutes. I don't want to tie everybody up tonight. Hopefully you're all staying warm. Okay, here we go again. Stephen, you don't understand. Bible doesn't say Joseph became Pharaoh. Verse, please. No. The Bible's not... I'm sorry. The Bible's not a complete history. Joseph was viceroy. He was vice Pharaoh, right? There was nobody that had more power in Egypt at the time than Joseph. Historically, however, we can find some people historically that very likely were him. When I talk about these things, why would you get all wrapped up around something as small as that? The Bible isn't a complete history. I'm sorry, it's not. It's a teaching tool. It has some history in it. It is an historical thing, but it doesn't give you it's not the Library of Alexandria. It's not the Library of Congress. You get this information by studying scholastic information that's tied to the Bible, but outside of its scope, outside of its written word, okay? Are you going to tell me, Stephen, you must then not believe in the rights under the Constitution? What are you talking about, Roy? What are you talking about? Well, there are two types of law. And there's the law that we have in our country that says that all things are legal, are permissible, unless expressly prohibited. Napoleonic law is exactly the opposite. All things are prohibited unless permitted. You can apply that to history as well. Not everything is written down in every history book. I'll give you another example. Go look into the cause of the Civil War. What are you going to find there? The cause of the Civil War, the American Civil War. So don't throw Bible questions at me saying, well, it's not written in the Bible, so it didn't happen. All right? Well, gee, the Battle of the Romans with the Carthaginians isn't in the Bible. Okay, and if you want to just talk about just the Hebrews and stuff like that, just the Israelites, there were things that happened with what. Oh, here's a question for you: are you Catholic? Are you still there, Stephen? Are you Catholic? Let me ask you if you're Catholic. Can you answer me, Stephen? Are you Catholic? Okay, I'm just for the sake of the argument, I can't see if you're answering me or not. Let's say you are Catholic. Okay, what do you think of Protestants that don't hold the books of the Maccabees or the Apocrypha? They're not in the Bible, but there's information in there. There's information in Jasher, right? It's not in the Bible. It's referred to in the Bible, but it's not in there. You see the problem with what you're doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Eileen's asking, and I don't want this to just be a you know Bible study tonight. When was Enoch removed from the Bible? I'm not sure it was ever removed. See that you're kind of looking at it backwards. The Council of Nicaea took books of which Enoch was one that they knew and they didn't include, and they chose what books were going to go in the Bible. The Bible's not just one book, it's a collection of books. And the Council of Nicaea decided which books were going to go into the Bible. The same way the Jewish people decided what books were going to go into the Tanakh. Okay, the Tanakh being the Torah, the Nebiim, and the Ketuvim. That's the Torah. That's the first 5 books of the Bible. The Ketuvim are the writings like Psalms, etc., and then the Nebiim, which are the prophets like Isaiah. So they collected those books. So Enoch was never removed from the Bible; it was just never put in. See the difference? Which is another problem with Stephen's statement there about Joseph. So that's the point. Okay. We've been going for an hour, almost an hour and 10 minutes. I want to thank everybody for coming. Please go look at Nancy's the link to Nancy Morganhart's video today. If you have not seen it, it's in the description box below. And they're at war with us, ladies and gentlemen. They're at war with us. They could have, like I said, they don't need an EMP. We've always thought, well, it's going to be an EMP attack that's going to take down the grid. No, it wasn't. It was our own green regulations, EPA regulations, and those things that took our grid down. Okay, that's what did it. And again, they could have manipulated the weather. I know they can do that, obviously, but all they had to do is wait for the right time. They could see these things coming, so they could get ready for it. They know it's a solar minimum, for instance. If you talk to Jesse of BP Earthwatch, I'm sure he could tell you, with the solar minimum being what it is, we could almost have expected this weather to go this way this winter, which fits in with the dark winter, of course, that Biden talked about. All right. Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'll let you go. Uh, I'm not sure when I'll be back up. Of course, I'm never sure. We'll see if if we've said something on here where they give me another strike. Um, I really like Monograph's saying where he says, at the end he says, "I'm Monograph, and if you can't speak freely, you're simply not free," and that's very true. And I've argued with attorneys and with other people who say that these social platforms have a right to do this. Uh, uh, my problem, of course, is that first of all they used government money to get it, and second of all they've made it that it is the town square. And uh, when they had their Section 230 exemptions, they agreed to some things, and now they're changing the contract. And in that case, they should lose their 230 protections. But we need a place where we can communicate. And so, rather than arguing why uh, these social platforms can restrict you and can censor you, and not just for your opinions, or even like the medical doctors that they take down for different reasons, which we won't get into. Um, Instead of arguing why they can do that, these attorneys need to get on to protecting our rights as individuals, not as corporations. If you understand what I'm saying, that's where the real rubber meets the road: is protecting the rights of the individual to exercise their rights. And so these attorneys, I have a lot of respect for a lot of them, but when they get up there and they say, "Well, no, that's a private company; they can do what they want." Okay, well, a private company, if you have your power company, you've signed a term of service with them, and they've decided that they can come in and burglarize your house anytime they want because you have too many appliances. Now, that's not exactly going to work, but you'll see what my point is. So these attorneys need to find out a way to protect our rights, not to help these evil um, technocratic uh, cyber companies steal our First Amendment from us, and soon our Second Amendment. How are they going to argue about stopping the infringements on the Second Amendment if they won't even help us to keep our First? So all of you attorneys out there who have I've had this little discussion with, just take note of that, and let's see if we can't do something to protect us, not give it up. Okay. All right, everybody. Take care. I'll talk to you later. Have a great night.